Most people forget Italy flew an entire arsenal of World War II planes, from deadly torpedo bombers to sleek fighters that challenged the Allies. Here's every Italian aircraft in the war. Biplane fighters. Fiat CR-32. It was extremely nimble and a favorite of many pilots, but by 1940, it was thoroughly outclassed by modern monoplanes. Yet Italian pilots flew it bravely in North Africa and Greece. Fiat CR-42 Falco, known as the Falcon. This was perhaps the finest combat biplane ever built. It excelled in dogfights below 13,000 feet. The Royal Air Force recognized its amazing turn radius, but its top speed was simply too low for success in later theaters. Imam RO-44, a very rare type. This single-seat floatplane fighter was derived from the RO-43 reconnaissance craft. It had limited production, used primarily for defending major naval bases and coastal patrol duties. Next on the list is monoplane fighters. Fiat G50 Freccia, the Arrow, Italy's first low-wing all-metal monoplane fighter. It suffered initially from a lack of decent armament and an open cockpit. It was reliable, but quickly overshadowed by newer designs. Now, this is the Macchi C200 Saetta, named Lightning. This fighter was a very sturdy and trustworthy design. Pilots praised its excellent maneuverability and structural strength. However, the relatively low-powered engine prevented it from competing with Allied machines at higher altitudes. Regia RE2000 Falco 1. This design was highly advanced for its time. It featured stressed skin construction and strong performance. Italian authorities declined mass production due to concerns over self-sealing fuel tanks. Many were exported, ironically, to Hungary and Sweden. Regia RE2001 Falco 2. This was a significant improvement over its predecessor. It adopted the superior German Daimler-Benz DB601 engine. This transformation made it one of Italy's best early war fighters. It served effectively as a fighter-bomber as well. Regia RE2002 Ariete, named Ram. This machine was developed when supplies of the German DB601 engine became scarce. It reverted to a powerful radio motor. It excelled in the ground attack role, especially during the Allied landings in Sicily in 1943. Next on the list is Series 5 fighters, late war. Macchi C202 Folgore, the true star of the early Regia Aeronautica. The Thunderbolt successfully mated the superb Macchi airframe with the powerful German DB601 engine. It finally allowed Italian pilots to meet Allied Spitfires on equal terms. Macchi C205 Veltro, the Greyhound. This fighter, the Greyhound, was the ultimate evolution of the Macchi 2000 line. Utilizing the larger, more powerful German DB605 engine, it was truly competitive. Many pilots considered it Italy's finest fighter aircraft of the entire war. Fiat G55 Centauro, the Centaur, another exceptional high-altitude fighter. It also used the German DB605 engine, considered by many experts, including the Germans, to be technically superior even to the Messerschmitt Bf 109. Its production came tragically late. Regia RE2005 Sagittario, the Archer, the final and most aesthetically pleasing of the Italian Series 5 fighters. It boasted superb handling and blistering speed. Although only a handful were built, it represented the absolute pinnacle of Italian piston engine fighter design. Next on the list is heavy fighters and night fighters. Imam RO-57. This was an ambitious twin-engine heavy fighter intended for high-speed interception. Unfortunately, technical difficulties and the demand for single-engine fighters severely limited its deployment, and it saw minimal combat action. The next one, Fiat CR-25, a fairly rare twin-engine design that primarily served in the reconnaissance and escort roles. It proved quite reliable, specializing in photographing enemy fleet movements over the Mediterranean. Continuing with medium and torpedo bombers, Savoia-Marchetti SM.79 Sparviero, the legendary three-engine Sparrowhawk, easily the most recognizable and successful Italian bomber of the war. It was famously rugged and effective as a torpedo bomber, earning the respect of the Royal Navy across the Mediterranean. Savoia-Marchetti SM.79, Pipistrello, known as the Bat. This trimotor was the predecessor to the SM.79. It was already obsolete when the war began. It spent the conflict primarily flying night missions or carrying essential troop and cargo transport. Savoia-Marchetti SM.84, designed to modernize the successful SM.79 line. This three-engine craft featured better armament. However, pilots found it less stable and harder to handle than the old Sparrowhawk, limiting its overall effectiveness. Fiat BR-20 Cicogna, the Stork, an early Italian bomber that participated briefly in the Battle of Britain in 1940. It was rugged but slow. It was quickly relegated to secondary roles, primarily serving in the Far East with the Japanese Air Force. Up next is Cont Z1007 Alcione, the Kingfisher, a very robust three-engine medium bomber. It was known for its wooden airframe construction, which allowed it to absorb significant damage. It was widely used for reconnaissance and bombing over the Balkans and North Africa. Cont Z1018 Leone, named Lion. This was Italy's most advanced twin-engine bomber project. It featured an all-metal stressed skin design. Although significantly better than earlier types, production delays meant it missed the main fighting phases of the war. Moving on to heavy bombers. Piaggio 108P. This was the only four-engine heavy bomber employed by the Regia Aeronautica. It saw limited operational use. It was mainly used for long-range maritime patrols and night bombing, showing potential that was never fully realized. Now let's look at dive bombers and ground attack. Breda BA-65, a single-seat low-wing monoplane used extensively for ground attack and dive bombing in the Spanish Civil War. By 1940, it suffered heavy losses due to its slow speed and weak defensive armor. Breda BA-88 Lince, the Lynx, perhaps Italy's most famous wartime flop. It was designed to be a high-speed reconnaissance aircraft. Once fully loaded with equipment, it became critically slow and unstable. Most were quickly grounded and abandoned. Savoia-Marchetti SM.85, an unfortunate attempt to create a twin-engine dive bomber. It proved incredibly unreliable and mechanically fragile in operation. It was withdrawn from frontline service after barely a year of disappointing performance. Caproni CA-314, a versatile twin-engine transport, light bomber, and reconnaissance machine. It was a further development in the Caproni 300 series, serving diligently in the logistical support role across the Mediterranean theater, continuing with seaplanes and flying boats. Cont Z501 Gabbiano, known as the Seagull, a widely used and recognizable long-range reconnaissance flying boat. It was slow and vulnerable, but its reliability made it essential for search and rescue and anti-submarine patrols. The next one, Cont Z506 Airone, the three-engine Heron, one of the finest hydroplane aircraft of the era. It was fast and remarkably sturdy, used primarily for search and rescue, long-range maritime patrol, and occasional bombing missions. IMMRO-43. This distinctive floatplane was the standard reconnaissance aircraft for major Italian naval vessels. It was launched via catapult. It played a key role in spotting and reporting during naval engagements in the Mediterranean. Caproni CA-316, a lesser-known floatplane version of the Caproni 300 series. It was primarily designed for coastal patrol duties and often employed for liaison and transport around harbors. Next on the list is land-based reconnaissance. Caproni CA-309 Ghibli, named after the hot desert wind. This twin-engine monoplane was a lightweight utility aircraft designed specifically for colonial police and reconnaissance duties in North Africa. Caproni CA-310 Libeccio, the Southwest Wind, an early reconnaissance bomber that saw widespread service across various theaters. It was sold internationally, but its performance was deemed insufficient for modern combat by 1940. Caproni CA-311, distinguished by its extensive use of glazing in the nose section, offering superb visibility for reconnaissance crews. It was used mainly for visual and photographic mapping missions. Caproni CA-313, one of the more successful multi-role light bombers and trainers in the Caproni series. It was widely exported, proving itself reliable and adaptable for reconnaissance and light attack roles. IMM-RO-37, a very sturdy biplane used extensively for Army cooperation and reconnaissance, particularly in Ethiopia and the early campaigns in North Africa. It was reliable but suffered heavily when encountering enemy fighters. Now let's look at transport and liaison. Savoia-Marchetti SM.79 Kanguro, the massive tri-motor kangaroo, a crucial strategic transport, famous for its immense range and payload capacity, enabling complex long-distance missions, including strategic supply drops over the Soviet Union.